What is your name and how old are you?
My name is Padgett and I'm 13.
And what activities do you like to do on your free time?
I like to draw, dance, and sing Disney songs.
Sometimes people get the feeling that life is not worth living. What would you tell those people? What do you think of them?
I would tell them to hang out with their friends more or get more friends to hang out with because they could help get the thoughts away.
Okay, what are some aspects or things of life that make you feel like it's not worth living?
The lions and sheep's clothing, because I had a lot of friends who act like they were my friends, but they weren't. And my speech impediment, because many people made fun of me because of that.
When did you begin to have these thoughts and experience?
I was 10 in 5th grade on November 22nd.
How frequently did you have these thoughts and feelings?
For 3 months.
Do these thoughts or feelings intrude on your life?
Yes, because I'll be so high and then I'll go downhill.
Can you describe the thoughts you had?
It felt like my heart was at the bottom of my stomach and that I was in darkness.
Did your thoughts command you to act upon them?
Other than wanting to kill myself, no.
What stopped you from acting upon your thoughts?
Seeing my therapist, she said that life's a roller coaster. It has its ups and downs, and that the negative thoughts and words are just bad pins. Throw them away.
And how are you feeling today?
Super happy. I am a enthusiastic cheerleader whose spirit shines upon the crowd stands. I'm a ballerina, poised and refined. The move of my body comes from the soul. I am your best friend. I will stand beside you and praise your accomplishments. I will share in your joys and share in your sorrows. I'll give you all of me. That's just who I am. I'm suicidal. You've met my highs, but you'll never meet my lows. At 10 years old, my life was but a shadow of a thought to the desperation I felt. And while I shared in your joys, built a stand full of screaming fans and dance refined, nothing came from my soul. My self-worth was waning, my hope was dashed, and my spirit faltered. I am. I am not my depression. I am not out of control. I am. I am worthy of love. I am loved. I am strong. I will fight against this illness and know my self-worth. I'll build a brighter future and become at peace with myself. I'll look for guidance because I am worth it. Suicide is not a statistic or a way to gain attention. It is real. I urge you, please, if you are contemplating suicide, reach out and talk to someone because you matter.
Jessica, can you please introduce yourself and tell us about your professional background?
I have my bachelor's degree in psychology and my master's in marriage and family therapy. I've been working with kids for about 6 years. I started out in a level 12 group home, and then I since have moved into clinical work. So I am a therapist for children and families, and I currently am working with a SpiritNet behavioral health in Turlock.
Kristen, can you please introduce yourself and tell us about your professional background?
I'm also a marriage and family therapist intern. I got my bachelor's in psychology as well. I worked at a level 14 group home for almost 10 years in a non-public school in an intensive day treatment program and as a supervisor of the residential house. And I've been with Sierra Vista Home-Based Services for about 4 years now, doing intensive individual and family therapy with kids and families in the community.
So what exactly is depression?
Depression is a clinical disorder that affects the way a person thinks, feels, and behaves. And it usually will cause impairment in one if not multiple life areas. So it can affect them at school, it can affect them in the community, it can affect them in social interactions, and it can definitely affect them in the home environment.
Okay. At what age is depression most prominent in youth?
I think it's important to remember that depression can actually be at any age for a minor. And right now, evidence suggests that about 10 to 15% of children and teens are depressed at any given time. So it's a pretty high rate. Some studies even estimate it higher than that. And teenagers in particular are susceptible to experiencing depression, and a lot of that can be related to the fact that teenagers typically have more social pressure. So that definitely can affect it. 1 in 4 adolescents, based on some studies, will have at least one incident of major depression during high school, average onset being about 14 years old. So it's definitely, and then a different study found that as many as 1 in 5. So it varies a little bit, but either way, 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 is a pretty high rate of kids who are experiencing depression at least some point during the time that they're growing up.
Can you provide us with a resource for children on youth mental health and bullying? Websites, phone numbers?
So there's a lot of local community resources. Sierra Vista Child and Family Services is throughout Stanislaus County. There's Center for Human Services, Aspiranet Behavioral Health, Youth and Family Services, Leaps and Bounds, Stanislaus Covery Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. There's intensive home-based services like what Kristen works with. And then even a program within my program that's called Therapeutic Behavioral Services, and we also deal with kids struggling with depression and suicidal behavior, so cutting and that kind of thing. There's private providers for anybody that has private insurance and doesn't qualify for one of the community resources. School-based counseling, and then the suicide hotlines, the 1-800-SUICIDE, 1-800-273-TALK. The crisis text line, the 741-741, and then specifically for LGBTQ community, there's the 1-866-4U-TREVOR. There's also a lot of stuff just available at your fingertips if you just Google or look up local community resources, and you'll get a list of all of those. And we actually brought some lists that we can provide to whoever's just.
And if you're just looking for like a general good comprehensive like resource, stopbullying.gov is a really good website with information that covers a lot of bases, from like why it happens, what you can do, what schools can do, what parents can do. It's a good resource, and it's easily accessible.
And for kids who are struggling with maybe just self-harm behavior, but it's not for the intention of ending their life, there's actually a really good app that I encourage teenagers to use, just because everybody has smartphones these days. But it's called STEM4, and it's an app that helps with suicidal behavior or self-harm behavior. And so the youth can go on there when they're feeling like cutting or feeling like harming themselves in some way. They can go on there and it'll give them alternatives. It'll suggest alternatives, anywhere from a distraction technique to a relaxation technique. And it's been really helpful with some of the youth that I've worked with that are struggling with self-harm behavior, especially teens, because like I said, you guys all have smartphones now. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.